What interesting imagery. First Thessalonians chapter 5 starts with the day of the Lord coming like a thief in the night. And I think, 2020, we can relate to this. Coronavirus, COVID-19 seemed to just come like a thief in the night. And we've had lots of conflict since then. We've got, the racial protests, and violence and riots and so many things happening right now. It seems to be a dark time, and much like the time preceding the day of the Lord that Paul talks about in this chapter. And I just think it's really interesting that Paul tries to get the church in Thessalonica not to focus on the darkness. In fact, he says to them, you are all sons of the light and sons of the day. And then he goes on to say, in the midst of this darkness, you are to be light. And he admonishes them to live their lives a certain way, to focus on what is good, to encourage one another, to exhort one another, to lift up one another, to remember those who are in charge of them, those who are shepherding them, those who care about their soul and their well-being. And he says, we urge you, brothers, make sure nobody pays back wrong for wrong. And so I think we can take this to heart right now. There's so many things happening around us. Yes, we need to speak up for justice. Yes, we need to have a voice and speak out for things that are not right, and speak up for the things that we want to see change. But at the same time, we need to be reminded as the church that we need to be joyful always. We need to pray continually. We need to give thanks in all circumstances, and that this is God's will for us, despite what's happening around us, despite the darkness that surrounds us, despite the fears of things to come. This is what Paul encourages the church in Thessalonica to do. And it's his last words, and he says, he says a blessing over them. And I just want to say this blessing over us, because we need to be encouraged. We need to be positive, and we need to be focused on who Christ calls us to be and what he calls us to do at this time. So he says, may God himself, the God of peace, sanctify you through and through. May your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.